We spend enough a year to house and feed each homeless person in the streets, on turning families in apartment buildings in the Middle East to bloody craters full of charred garments. And our media is silent at best. At worst, they can find it in themselves to call war crimes clashes and label children burned to ashes terrorists who played a stupid game and reaped the harvest. And every time we try to paint the truth, the news sends all their slugs to suck off all the varnish and distort it into something harmless. The media will hang you by your feet and keep you half asleep. So yes, I'm here to set you free, but freedom won't be sweet because you'll fall 1,000 feet when I come cut you out your harness. They say those who dream the deepest fall the farthest. They also say that home is where the heart is. But if home for you is Gaza, Netanyahu's got you painted as a target. Perhaps it's not the impact, but it's what you see when falling that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the sound of all those children crying out in those apartments that will hit the hardest. Maybe all those little bodies scattered in the dirt will hit the hardest. Maybe seeing human lives assigned such little worth will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're paying for the darkest of atrocities committed on this earth that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that we give 10 million a day to oppressors who possess the kind of Medicare you'll die in debt before you see that's gonna hit the hardest. Maybe then you'll see you've always had more in common with the commoners whose slaughter we fund every day in Gaza than our senators and bosses. Maybe then you'll see our country never had a conscience. And maybe then the retroactive guilt will make you nauseous. Maybe what hits harder than the impact is the act of being conscious, of knowing your complicity and helplessness to try and stop the bloody deeds of Congress. And that no matter who's in office, America preserves its foreign interests by whatever means its greed demands, however monstrous. We'll always need a place to train our Contras. And Biden's got a backup plan should harm befall the Holy Land. Wipe it off the map, he'll draw it back on with an iron hand. He demands an Israel, or reasonable effigy, to exercise democracy and colonize the Middle East, regardless of the human cost or phosphorus atrocities, all bought and paid with money they rerouted out the budget for the non-essential things like ever making Flint's water clean. Maybe what hits hardest is the day you see this country for its actual priorities and never more no honest peace attempting sleep.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? What's happening, everybody? Hi, it's Monday night. It's Indy. It's Reef. It's how do we miss that? Well, yes, it's a special night because I had to take some time with my lady. So we took the night off. I ran the independent review. I hope y'all like that for everyone who watched. We will be running that weekly on Monday nights now, until at such time that Himbo and Yeti decide to bring back the Maple Files, and then we'll find another spot for the independent review. But we want to get the independent review in on a weekly basis as well for Ryan and to showcase some of the other independent media out there. So, again, this is How Do We Miss That? It's Monday night. Excited to be here. Reese kind of like, well, you had to do a show this week. You know, you could have taken the week off. Yeah, yes, I know I could have, but there's stories to do, and we don't miss very many weeks because this is what we do.
He tries to rationalize quickly.
I don't need to rationalize.
No,
I just do.
Officer, I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
I just do. Well, actually, I put out a clip about that, about how you think that I was nuts for doing a second show last week.
Yep.
So we've got a few stories to do tonight. We're going to talk about the Uniparty because we love talking about the Uniparty. But people waking up to the Uniparty, we do like. We got Rumyesa Öztürk actually out of the Louisiana facility, the ICE facility, finally. One of them, at least. You know, we've got Mahmoud Khalil. Other people are still in there. We've got a Fuck Israel segment because it's How Do We Miss That? So we had to have a Fuck Israel segment. And then we're actually going to have a couple of positive stories tonight. A couple of, like, small W's that I found. And I was like, you know, we gotta bring some a little bit of a W. And Reef may not think it's a W. We'll see. But before we get started, this is our Wall of Fame. All these incredible people. And now you see that there's a little bit of a highlight to a few of the people on there. I tried to figure out some way to showcase some of the people who give more than others and that really stand out and support the network and the channel and the people here on a regular basis, and we really appreciate that help. James Arkazewski, who's been liking and sharing everything over on Substack. I see you, man. Thank you. Really appreciate you. Sean the Accord Lord, of course. We love you, brother. All right. Anna Mayers, Kameshwari Kate. Kameshwari Kate was in chat earlier on boats. We are going to do boats later on the Ocho. Kameshwari Kate said that she would not be able to make it tonight. She's got a city council thing. So we love you, Kate. We'll see you soon. And hope that works out. Natalie Williams, she's probably going to be here. She's not here already. Charlie Mack. I saw Charlie Mack here before. Good to see Charlie Mack. We got Ghost Start, Hamaste over there on Rumble. So we're live on like 8 platforms, including Substack. We're live over at IndieMediaToday.com. We're live over at IndieNewsNow.com. Self-hosted. No platforms at all. Just our website. You can go there and watch it too. But we're on Twitter, we're on Rumble, we're on Odyssey, Bitchute. Okay, we're where else are we? Where are we? Twitch and Kick. Hey, Kick, we're over on Kick. If you're over on Kick, say something on Kick. We can put that up on screen too. All right. I can't put up chats from Substack yet, unfortunately. But I can, of course, no, because I can't pop out that chat. And once we can, I'll work with our program that does that with all the other popped out chats to be able to put any of them on screen. Well, yeah. So if you're able to, again, rookie move. See, I'm just showing the thing. Cash App, $, Indie News Network, co-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, INNnewsletter.com, or at IndieMediaToday.com are the places to do that. You can also, again, there's a direct donate link over at IndieNewsNow.com also. All right, I'm going to get to our first story now. Here we go. All right, and it's people waking up to like what's happening out there. So I don't feature this woman very often, Ashley Stevens from the Acumen. All right, but she put up a tweet thread that I just thought was a beautiful tone to start the show. All right, and she says, I know it sounds conspiracy theorist to say this. It's not. But you really should assume the absolute worst about the people in power. This includes not only politicians, but billionaires who have intentionally put themselves in sections of governmental power to create policy. Like all of it. Because if they're not there, they're buying it. Don't assume people who have a history of being the evilest people in history are acting in good intentions based off of what you would do. That's a really important point. All right. I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm a good person, so they must be good people too. They're not. MK Ultra really happened. So did the Philly Move bombing. The police state has been intentionally funded and grown, which we have covered extensively on this show. The dots are there. All right. As she continues, Dick Cheney is still Dick Cheney. Trump being a POS doesn't absolve him of the evils and horrors he was instrumental in causing. These people are still in positions of power, even if they're not in office. They rotate from political offices to weapons manufacturers. We know that happens. Stop expecting and assuming the best from people who've shown you the worst. Amen, sister. These corporations see paying lawsuits as the price of doing business. Health insurance companies see death as profit. Brian Thompson learned that the hard way. People who work and profit from these jobs are evil. Accept that fact. If you work for a weapons manufacturer, when you know for a fact they'll be used to kill innocent people, you're not a good person. If you have a job where you know part of that will include killing or harming innocent people, you're not a good person. These politicians don't have to vote for bills they know are harmful. They choose to do it. They'll come up with excuses, but we've seen Trump give people his ass to kiss. If Joe Manchin can single-handedly torpedo the Democratic Party and democracy because they want him to, so can any other senator, as we've seen from the rotating villain and Kirsten Gillibrand. And who's the one now they're using to do it? I don't even know because I stopped paying attention. It doesn't matter. It's a role. It's a rotating role. She says, I've noticed that whenever they have politicians of these high-level CEOs of major corporations, health insurance companies, banks, airlines, etc., they're all smiling in their professional headshots, right? They gleefully enjoy their jobs. This is who we're working against politically. These people have the money and the power within our government. They control our politicians being mega donors. This is who we are up against. It's not just Trump. There's a lot of evil people out there in positions of power and authority over our daily lives. I was like, that's freaking great. Like, good. I'm glad she's waking up to it, and I hope she wakes up a lot of other people too. This is an important thread for people to understand, especially people that like aren't tuned to this. Like, because there's a lot of people really not paying close attention. And this is like a nice primer, a nice intro thread for people to be able to share and be like, yeah, no, we're not led by the best and the brightest, and the people who are looking out for us, they're all kind of shit, and they're self-serving and they're donor serving. I mean, they're there to serve the billionaire class from the from the quote unquote elected representatives, all right, to the people that fund them and make sure that they're there. All right. And then, of course, the corporations that are benefiting and profiting, like she said, that are using it for profit. But there's another portion to this, all right? And that's Carrie Wedler, member of the Independent Media Alliance, all right? She did a whole thing about, like, well, would you have rather voted for... Here, check this out. Now, what she does is she equates... She's been, like, kind of, I think, getting upset a little bit by, like, MAGA people coming back and going, well, would you have rather had Kamala? Right? Except that she's here to show in a multitude of ways how and why
both of the same things would fucking happen.
Like literally the things that they're like saying would have happened under Kamala are exactly what's happening under Trump. So
what Trump is doing.
This is like a 3-minute video. It's brilliant. I'm like, oh, we need to bring this. Steve actually showed it on AM Wake Up this morning, but I was like, all right, screw it. We're gonna do it anyway. All right. Would you rather have
Scuba
Kamala?
Steve?
Damn you, Scuba Steve. Let me go to where's the thing, the slideshow on, slideshow off. No slideshow off. Okay. There it is, slideshow off.
Again,
Now
Steve, you can
it.
come down. We'll get you actually certified so you can be Scuba Steve.
He's on, they're live at Blunt Force Wisdom right now on the AM Wake Up channel. So again, Carrie Wedler, Pleasure to Burn over on Substack. Check this out.
Whenever I questioned Donald Trump and his diehards, I met with a very rational, very logical argument. Would you rather have Kamala? No, I wouldn't rather have Kamala. I'd rather
Why
have
it's so
real
low?
freedom where millions of people don't get to impose their beliefs on millions of other people through the force of government. But since so many people have this NPC program running in their brains now, it's worth considering how MAGA might be reacting to such a consolidation of private, public, technocratic, authoritarian power and the expansion of government on numerous fronts. So Kamala, we're doing it. The rapidly encroaching tech oligarchy and their militarized artificial intelligence and surveillance ambitions as the regime supports extremely anti-Maha biotech pharmaceuticals. Kamala's a shill for the deep state and big pharma, enforcing the 9/11 era Real ID Act that further paves the way for biometric national ID, ushering in the New World Order. Trump never would have done this. Continuing astronomical spending, including promising $1 trillion military budget and still arming Ukraine, ruining the economy with her big spending and warmongering, appointing corporate lobbyists, filling the swamp as expected, appointing shills for Israel while silencing speech for them. I will not stand for the, well, it is for Israel. She's not silencing speech enough, declaring that only the president and his attorney general get to decide what laws mean for the entire executive branch. Communist dictator. BlackRock and financial mogul Charles Schwab directly benefiting from the administration's policies. Empowering oligarchs. Still no Epstein files. Only an agent of the deep state would do this. Prioritizing making a central bank digital currency through stablecoins after fooling people into thinking he banned CBDCs. Just another lying, conniving politician trying to enslave and gaslight us. Bombing Yemen and Somalia without a war declaration? If only the peace president Donald Trump had won. I understand why people voted for Trump. Years of being lied to, coerced, and forced to fund policies you don't consent to were good reasons to reject the party in power. But even if Kamala had won and implemented the same core policies toward centralizing control and trampling liberties in the name of equality and tolerance instead of MAGA's freedom and country, the Trump bootlicking solution would still be, we just need our guy sitting on the throne. We just haven't elected the right people yet. The real problem is my ideology isn't being imposed through government force. This is ultimately the same resistance Democrats offer to Trump. The knee-jerk question, would you rather have Kamala, is itself a reflection of the indoctrination and enslavement. Accepting two parties and two slightly different flavors of tyranny as if they're your only options when you could break free of the paradigm altogether. You can deem your rabid subservience to Trump and government at large pragmatism because you perceive this as better than the alternative. But it's not pragmatic if you lose your freedom and your rationalizations for these encroachments keep the insidious system afloat with the same technocratic authoritarian militarist trajectory that would have occurred under Kamala. If you want this dystopia to end, no matter which politician or party it comes from, it has to be more than dissenting based on who's in power. Your skepticism of authority must evolve past partisanship to the root of the problem, the power itself. You might want to stop asking if people would rather have Kamala and start asking yourself why you're incapable of questioning tyranny when you think it's being done in your name.
Where would we be without our safe, familiar American bullshit?
All right. So that was Carrie. Yep. Again, duopoly, it doesn't matter because it's a uniparty. So we were going to get what we were going to get. Either one, blue shit or red shit. They were going to feed us basically the same meal. That's a lot of fun. Oz the Boomer's here. What's going on, Oz? Good to see you. They'll be live. Beauty and the Boomer will be back on Saturday night. Stay away from my chickens, Oz, please. Whatever you do. Where's my?
Stay away from my chickens, Oz.
You can't find it.
That's right. No, I've got it right there.
4 folders deep like mine.
No, it's only 2. I'm good. I got a whole Oz folder. But yeah, so that's people waking up to the Uniparty. That's again, more material for you to be able to share out there to wake people up so they can see that shit, man. Yeah, they're not on our side. Again, I know that's kind of preaching to the choir. I just found some really funny and better material to describe it than I've been able to, it feels like lately, or a different voice at least. And it's people that I think are either coming up on the scene or have been around for a little while that know what they're talking about. And it helps to reference them. So what do we got? Everybody is in chat. Good to see everyone here tonight. Again, we're live over on Substack over at indiemediatoday.com. So go check that out. Subscribe for free if you're able to. Support for a monthly or annual fee. And then, yeah. So that, by the way, that's Reef over there. What's going on with your bong cam? Something's covering your face.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't see it. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't see Reef's
it's like
face.
Locked to vertical. Why would it do that?
I don't know, but let's fix that before we go to our next. Hey, there he is. So Saturday night, I did a one-on-one with our friend Gen X Girl, 1994. That was a lot of fun. She's great. She talked a lot about the ADL and how they are projecting and doing exactly the kind of stuff that they're doing. They're complaining about, and that they're claiming that Qatar and that the Arab nations are editing Wikipedia. Okay, we know who edits Wikipedia. They're complaining that they're losing the narrative. Well, stop killing kids and you'll maybe not lose the narrative as much. Yeah, exactly.
Of all,
yep. But
this is like people said he was getting rid of the NED when he fucking didn't.
Well, and so I want to mention that. I want to talk about that for a second. I noticed that Brian Bertelic, and I even retweeted it yesterday, shared something
back in March, by the way.
Yeah, but what that was a note from the guy who ran the NED that he's working tirelessly to restore the funding. That doesn't mean that he was promised the funding or that it was given. And I think that was a little bit misleading because it didn't. I don't even know if that guy still works for the now shadow NED. Like, I have no idea what that is now and whether that money's actually been apportioned. Obviously, they're struggling and they're trying to get it back for the regime change operations in China. They mentioned China, Iran, Russia, Cuba, and Venezuela. It's like, okay, so basically other than Ukraine, I think, oh no, they said Ukraine too. Everywhere that you have military action or trying to destabilize a government or support a government that is in a proxy war that we've helped set up. Huh. How about that? That's weird.
How about that?
Now, the Fiorello said when they announced it that they were basically, and so did you, that they were just going to take it in underground and go dark with it. Rubio was going to end up with the budget. It was going to become part of the State Department, not even part of CIA.
Yep.
Because State Department can place diplomats in every embassy in the world with diplomatic immunity. Come on, hit me up with the diplomatic immunity. You got to go 3 things deep there.
Diplomatic.
See, now
Immunity.
we got a halfway.
Diplomatic immunity.
That's right. So, you know,
It's just been revoked.
oh yeah. I wish they actually like did that once, but you know, there's a I'm not going to say which one. That would be wishing harm on a specific individual. We don't do that here. Actually, we're going to bring a positive story about a little bit of a W that our side, quote unquote, that the anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist side has won. I found 2 of them in the past week. Well, plus Rumyesa Öztürk, which is sort of a win, but also sort of not a win, which we're going to get into in more detail later on. All right. But this is a Left Voice article. Left Voice is a Indie Media Award honoree from Initial Class for one of the best independent outlets that does not take any sponsor funding. They're affiliated with La Izquierda Diario from Argentina and a worldwide coalition of independent sites. So in the U.S., it's Left Voice. Rita Singer and Kyle Thibodeau, a report from Michigan that Power and Struggle felony charges dropped against
there too.
Maybe.
What?
But Power and Struggle felony charges dropped against encampment protesters. So finally, a little bit of a break in the wall. All right. The felony charges from last year's University of Michigan encampment have been dropped. We should mark this as a victory. So I'm going to read this article. It's pretty short. It talks a little bit about the encampment, but also remember we covered a raid a couple of weeks ago that Dana Nessel, their attorney general, was involved in also, where they broke down the doors of some of these protesters, graduate students, and like arrested. I don't even know if they arrested them, but they trampled the place. They woke them up at 5 a.m, putting guns in their faces and shit. Like, no need for that. So on May 5th, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel dropped felony charges against 7 protesters involved in last year's encampment on University of Michigan campus against the genocide in Gaza. In the same week, and this might have had something to do with it, University of Michigan President Santa J. Ono, I love that their president's name was Santa, resigned and took a new position at University of Florida. So that means that Santa was crushing anti-Zionist or anti-genocide protests. Literally, they had Santa crushing them. In explaining her reasoning for dropping the charges, Nessel noted
they were naughty.
They were very naughty. Nessel noted that the cases had become a lightning rod of contention.
I feel like this is just the next Santa Claus movie, you know?
Santa Ono.
What's his name?
Santa. Oh no! Don't cancel the protest. Oh no! Santa.
Who's the
no!
home improvement guy?
Tim Allen.
Name? Tim Allen. That's it.
There was Jesse Jett told a hilarious story about Tim Allen and that his phone heard him make that noise and all of a sudden started suggesting home improvement stuff and stuff with Tim Allen in it. the Santa Claus and other movies that dude messed up. All right. So as Kyle continues, as Kyle and Rita, this is a win for the movement and shows the difference that collective resistance can make. Not only can protests and campaigns against repression be effective strategically, they can serve as the basis for the fight to build a strong movement that includes the strategic power of the working class. They show why we need to fight to keep the movement alive. And they show why a militant defense of democratic demands can build the collective experience we need to grow stronger as a movement of international solidarity. All right. As encampments spread across the country and the world last spring in the biggest student uprising since the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations, universities and colleges cracked down. On many campuses, the administrators invited police raids to break up and demolish the student encampments, complete with live streams and news reports of many violent arrests of students and faculty. The only people who were violent, by the way, were the cops and the Zionists, 99% of the time. In other cases, the administrations were able to negotiate with protesters to get them to leave on their own. Many university administrations brought criminal charges against those protesting the genocide. We've still been seeing that even in Colombia. They've still been kicking them out of school. While most of those charges were dropped within a couple of months, by the spring of 2025, some charges still remained. 7 felonies from the University of Michigan, 12 felonies from Stanford, 8 from City College of New York, and there have also been recent arrests, like we said, at Columbia, at Brooklyn College, and even Rutgers. All right. One thing that's notable, though, about both the University of Michigan and CUNY is that those are both public universities that leaned into their public character to encourage community support. All right. At both schools, the protesters facing felony charges were mainly people who came from the community rather than people directly part of the university. That, again, is not a surprise. These people don't want to put their jobs on the line. All right. The repression of the movement in the U.S. is mirrored abroad. No surprise, as seen in the case of Anasi Kazib, a railway worker, union activist, and spokesman for Revolution Permanente, which is part of the international network, right, in France. Right?
Revolution.
Right. The French state.
Oh, French? Gotcha.
French
Revolution.
state decided to prosecute for a tweet in support of the Palestinian people. All right. I remember, I think it might have been, was this the person that Richard Medhurst was talking about initially? That there was like a Palestinian, yeah,
French is the language of love.
living in Paris or in France that they persecuted like crazy. I remember this story pretty clearly. All right, by employing the violence of the state, the ruling class was mostly able to stamp out the encampments, demobilize the movement, and keep us from reviving it. Especially when school was going to be starting up in the fall, Biden and the university administrations kept the level of repression high, which set the stage for Trump to then escalate further. Thanks, Obama. Right? Trump continued and expanded Biden's repression against the Palestinian liberation movement. I mean, against the protest movement here in the United States for Palestine liberation. All right. Using it to bolster his broad attacks on immigrants and wokeness. With this twisted combination, masked ICE officers have arrested multiple pro-Palestine students, visa holders, grabbing them from their homes like Mahmoud Khalil. Him, along with others, are currently under detention as political prisoners. But again, getting these felony charges dropped is important. Universities like Columbia, caving to Trump's dictates, also provided cover for a disciplining of the labor movement, especially evident in the firing and expulsion of Grant Minor because he participated in the Hens Hall protest. Minor is also a prominent Jewish voice denouncing these attacks on democratic rights and exposing how Trump and Columbia alike have been weaponizing false definitions of anti-Semitism to support the Zionist project. Again, to see a lot more of that, check out my 3 one-on-ones with Gen X Girl 1994. She's exposed Beitar US, who's come into the picture multiple times. Now they've been feeding the Trump administration lists, and now that's come out in FOIAs. At this point, Trump's audacious attacks have garnered enough pushback that he's had to backtrack. All right. After kidnapping Khalil and Ozturk, the administration proceeded to cancel hundreds of student visas. What a mess that was. They even challenged the protections guaranteed by a green card, which my whole life has been the same. But the public outburst was severe, and the Trump administration reinstated the visas. Did they? I thought they just reinstated the database, but they have not changed the status on those visas, to my understanding, making clear that they still intended to proceed with their attacks, but would need a more legally secure basis. I believe that they are still prosecuting. What they did, according to Arturo Dominguez, was that they actually deleted the database so that these students didn't know what their status was, and the schools weren't able to check what their status was. But once that database was reinstated, it didn't change the fact that they canceled over 1,300 visas for students. It just meant that the administration and the schools could now look up in a database that those visas were canceled. To my understanding, they have not reinstated it. So that's news to me if they have. All right. He says that this article says that this shows that the state couldn't just end the movement by co-opting it back into the fold of electoralism and had to resort to the armed wing of the state and courts to suppress the movement. Okay. This is a bipartisan affair. Totally agree. In pursuing charges against the encampment, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, a progressive Democrat. No, she's not. She doesn't even advertise herself as a progressive Democrat. She's a Democrat who stood up for reproductive rights and slapped back Trump's unconstitutional attacks. That's, again, bare minimum shit. Was hawkishly going on on the attack against the movement. All right. In fact, doing Trump's dirty work. It's also worth noting that she was the only attorney general in the country to do this. Not even the Texas AG did this. Recently, Nessel sent for FBI raids in multiple cities in Michigan against pro-Palestine activists, which we covered on the show from Left Voice, making it clear how close the Democrats are to Republicans on key issues. Uniparty, like we said. Left Voice already knew that it was a uniparty and was calling this out, and capitalism in general. They're an anti-capitalist outlet. They're an alliance to keep capitalism and the U.S. hegemony intact.
Capitalism.
That's right. Even if it means trampling on our civil rights and targeting violence against workers, okay, community members and students, and the elderly and women and children. They don't care. They're similar to the IOF in that way. All right. But militant resistance from the left is needed to pull back on this rightward swing. The problem is that most of the left ain't that militant and certainly isn't well trained and isn't going out and getting themselves trained, by my estimate.
The militants stand startled.
Maybe like Gracie training. I mean, what would you suggest, BJJ? Some type of.
Well, I mean, sure. Also, learning how to pull trigger fingers is useful. You know, also just look at protesting tactics and, you know, try to be inventive about how to, you know, circumvent them.
I actually shared something today on Twitter
how to fight
about that.
Is the suggestion. That's all. That's a useful tool. However you want to do that.
Well,
Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling.
Well, hand-to-hand that don't involve a trigger is what I was specifically referring to. But absolutely. I actually found a website, and we'll look at that in a second, called The Markup. And they had a couple of decent tweets that I shared today about, number one, don't bring a phone and if you have to a protest, read this guide on what to do and how to act with it, you know, what to do with it. Disable certain things.
I think I've covered that too.
Right. And then also about, is your home police department partnering with ICE? And it's a list of all of the police departments. Again, the markup over on Twitter.
Stalling as a tactic is probably like learn how to stall things out physically, you know, make it difficult for them.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Nessel also did not drop the charges out of the kindness of her own heart. She was facing, quote, months of mounting political pressure from the progressive wing of her own party, according to the Detroit Metro Times, including a protest that disrupted Nessel taking the stage at February's Michigan Democratic Party convention in Detroit. That's nice. I don't really think that the public pressure of progressive Democrats really did anything. It's the donors. It's when the money starts drying up. It's when the people stop giving you money to fight for what you're fighting for, and then you figure out why, and it's because you're supporting genocide. Oh, you mean those people don't want to give you money, and if they're going to do that, they might as well give it to the Republicans that are in power now anyway? Oh. Yeah. With growing dissent from the left, Nessel concluded, I no longer believe these cases to be a prudent use of my department's resources. That's probably because her resources are about to be stripped significantly, my guess is, with Republicans in power. It was a tactical retreat, as there is no way the Democrats could take on Trump in the midterm elections as being defenders of our rights while carrying out unfounded punishment to repress the free speech of students. They certainly could, and they would totally gaslight everybody and act like they were, but Trump would eat them alive. If Trump had to back down on the student visas, the Democrats would look worse continuing with these charges. They would then look to the right of Trump on this shit. You understand?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The movement for Palestine, I don't know if Democrats even care about being to the right of Trump. Honestly, like, they'll just say they're not, but it's the Joker. The movement for Palestinian liberation can only be won on an international basis. We stand in solidarity with the Palestinians being persecuted by Israel to the point of forced starvation in Gaza and the West Bank. And we resist Zionist oppression in our local struggles for freedom of speech and freedom of assembly in the bowels of the imperial core. That's beautiful writing right there. It's like poetry. Our struggles are inextricably linked, because what they're using Gaza as an experiment for how they intend to treat the most extreme neighborhoods in the United States. Yes. We know this.
Yep.
The AI policing, the biometric stuff that we're going to talk in a minute about biometric stuff.
The digital currencies and
CBDCs,
digital banking systems.
Yep.
And correct.
Yep. So building and protecting the movement within the U.S. and other imperialist countries, challenging the funders of genocide at home with BDS, even if they decide to make it illegal. They can't really make it illegal. I mean, you can decide where to spend your money and where not to spend your money, whether you say so or not. It's very hard to police that. All right. But challenging the funders and hurting them in the wallet is the key to strengthening the level of resistance possible within Palestine across the sea. We must fight for the abundance of food that the international workers produce daily under capitalism to get through that war zone into the mouths of the Palestinians that Israel is now cruelly starving out. Not now, has been for decades now, but now completely. Just as we must fight for the right to protest imperialism itself and assemble forces to build the strength to overthrow this racist patriarchal system from the inside out. Not administration, not presidency, system, baby. Wow, that was like I was a teenager again. It's a system. It's a systemic problem. We keep getting the same because it's garbage in, garbage out on the system. All right. As a global community, we must join our struggles and link the working class and oppressed across borders. We don't want genocide to ever benefit anybody. If we learn to strike strategically with all our might, if we really try hard, guys, we can win our freedom. We can win freedom for workers and the oppressed to infuse this spirit in a plan for a socialist international system. No, you need a plan first.
I call myself a joyful warrior.
I call you a drunken warrior. With this victory of getting the charges dropped at University of Michigan, and that's, oh yeah, by the way, they dropped the federal felony charges against the University of Michigan from the Attorney General. The movement can see that the state is not invincible and can be combated by joining students, faculty, and the community in a united struggle for Palestine, linked nationally with other struggles of the working class and oppressed. Yeah, I mean, tie it to workers. Yes, sure. Mm-hmm. And workers should fight for divesting and for BDS and, for higher wages, better working conditions, fewer working hours for same pay, etc. Trump doesn't have a mandate, and his attacks against democratic rights have received considerable pushback. In some ways, yes, but in a lot of other ways, not really. The more we push back as a united force, the more Trump will have to moderate the administration's attacks. It depends upon the way you push back. It's not just about pushing back as a united force. It's about methods, and it's about the avenues that you use to do that. Due to determined struggle, not duty. The Democratic Party, their duty, had to pull back their attacks against the movement in order to seem like a viable alternative to Trump. They haven't really. They still support Zionism, and they've just been in the shadows about it a little bit, but they're still there. This opens for the movement a little more space in order to unite our fight. A strategy that can win as we celebrate in getting the felonies dropped at U of M. Man, that's a lot of language just to get there. Now we have a moment to strengthen the movement nationally and internationally. This can be done through open democratic discussion where the rank and file sectors of the movement, students and workers, including through mass assemblies and public meetings, to discuss the current situation and debate what to do moving forward. I think a screening of Louis Theroux's The Settlers should also be included there. All right, I think that's instrumental in waking people up to just how bad it is. The minute they see it, they can't unsee it. We must find ways to connect and share about the processes and conclusions of our struggles along the way. By utilizing our strength in numbers and our creativity, we continue the next battle of the fight, secure the release of the Rutgers protester from jail, drop the Rutgers charges, drop the CUNY 8 charges, drop the charges against Anase Kazib, and at the same time, we must tighten our ranks to be ready for any future repression that will certainly be targeting the movement, like infiltrators who are constantly on their way in, trying to ingratiate themselves and eventually torpedo and cause drama, infighting, and derailing movements. That's the whole point of sending in those type of agents, chaos agents. All right. Ghost Star, thank you. Day 71, ceasefire airdrop from China, who ignored everything and said, fuck it, we're doing it anyway. China. But no trucks or aid. And it's just as awful as it gets. And there has been some movement on that this week. Allegedly, Trump made a deal to get the one American hostage out. He made a deal with Yemen, allegedly without Israel at the table, which got them very upset. It got a lot of people thinking that there was some kind of a rift there. And Bibi even said that we might have to make alternative plans basically to move forward without full U.S. support. That's bullshit. All right. This is all, he's only doing this with Abraham Accord countries. So this is all a smokescreen, guys. Remember who Trump is. All right. He's the heel in a WWE wrestling skit. Shout out to Angel Rivera, Angel in the Afternoon, and Pro Wrestling Talk, which was live on the Ocho last night. Got a record, I think, most number of views we've ever had on a Pro Wrestling Talk show on the Ocho since we started it in January. So thank you to everyone who's watching over there.
American bullshit.
But Trump is an expert in manipulation, in playing the heel, in creating the facade. And he's got script writers that can help put this together so that everybody wins in their minds and comes out with a little bit of face. This one fought this one. Oh, remember, you know, it's, well, he pushed back against Bibi. How can you say that he's such a Zionist? Because he takes orders from Miriam Adelson, and he's still planning on leveling Gaza, and he still let them take portions of Syria and portions of Lebanon and didn't say shit for the entire time. 71 days of starvation, hasn't said shit. He could immediately get aid in there today if he wanted to. I mean, today. But he doesn't. So, fraud. All right.
Yep.
But meanwhile, we got a win there. The other place where we got a small win, and again, this came from Breakthrough News, who, by the way, congratulations to Indie Media Award honoree Breakthrough News. They hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube this week. As a nonprofit, that's remarkable. University of San Francisco will divest from defense companies supplying Israel, including Palantir, L3 Harris, GE Aerospace, and Raytheon by June 1st, following sustained pressure from student activists. Also really important, my goodness. And what's really important about this is University of San Francisco is where? Silicon Valley.
In San Francisco?
Where's Palantir based? Silicon Valley. This is their
Silicon
backyard.
Valley?
They have to turn around and hit companies that are right in their backyard and say no. And this comes after months of protests, including a recent library occupation renamed in honor of Hossam Shabbat. All right, who Reef did a detailed story about on INN News a couple of months ago when they murdered him and targeted him as one of the few remaining journalists that was broadcasting on a daily basis and sharing stuff regularly. While the University of San Francisco insists that the decision was already planned, students say it resulted from negotiations and unrelenting pressure since last spring's encampments. They're certainly not divesting if there's no pressure. They're just not. So that's a win. And we're going to take that as a win. All right. But also, you know who divested of INN is YouTube. So if you're able to, and of means, this is where you can do so. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, and at innnewsletter.com, or at indiemediatoday.com, where we are actually live right now over on Substack. I'm so excited to be able to stream live to Substack. Such a geek about all that stuff. I'm sorry to be like a little over the moon about it, but it was a struggle, man. I begged these guys for years, hey, we would like to be able to send the show there. Got a nice, base of people that subscribe only through there. That may be the only place they see us. How do we get through the algorithms? And what I love about this is that every single person that subscribes.
Substack newsletter near you.
Yes, every person that subscribes to innnewsletter.com gets this emailed to their inbox when we go live. Guaranteed. I don't have to worry about the alerts not working or the filter. If you turn on the emails, you're going to get it. Yona, smoke more of the weeds. Oh, you know what? I need to move this over because I put the Cash App there. Thank you. Yes, we do like to smoke more of the weeds and smoke more of the dabs too. That's what my thing is on lately. All right. Seb Applejack for DEI. What? DEI for Israel? No, well, we don't want a DIE for Israel or DEI for Israel or anything for Israel for that matter. Your drunken fist technique is no match for my tiger claw. Nice. Kill your egregores. Good to see you, man. So yeah, it's a Monday night and we're here and we're doing this thing. So let everyone know, share the stream, share it out, share the show, share the fucking show. That's what we like to say. So if you're able to, again,
Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday night. We're going to be back on Sunday again next week. I don't know what we're going to end up doing on Memorial Day weekend yet. We'll figure that out. But Colorado People's News, Dana Nessel does not have a heart. Sure, she's a Democrat, of course. That tracks. All right. What? Oh, did I miss something? Sean the Accord Lord, I saw he put in something over there for some cash, but it already scrolled through. I missed it. Sorry, man. Damn it.
You scroll back up.
No, I can't scroll. Well, I can there, but I can't put it on screen. It came in here. Love you guys. Keep on keeping on. Yeah, thank you. Love you too, man. Again, when you see up on the screen, I actually put in highlight some of the people that give on a regular basis. Sean's definitely one of those, fam. So wanted to do a little something to recognize him. In addition to doing the Sean's playlist for American Tradition clip show, which will be live on Friday night. I'll be doing a clip show and continuing our alphabet. I haven't even started to put that together. I'll work on that tomorrow after I do the clips for this show. All right. Our next segment is the one that we do every week, it seems. It's Fuck Israel segment. And we need like a little graphic or something to give it the finger or something. I don't know. That would. Well, that's Colin's attitude towards it, and I kind of agree with that. So this is a guy named Guy Christensen. You may or may not have seen a video of his before, but this is some motherfucking dystopian shit right here. Watch this.
This is extremely dystopian. In Israel's final solution for the Palestinians, which their war cabinet voted unanimously into motion yesterday, May 5th, 2025, Israel will be establishing biometric camps in southern Gaza, erecting compounds run by foreign mercenaries who dictates who and who doesn't get aid. These areas will be under full IDF control, and they will be able to snatch and murder whomever they want to on their way to get aid. This will be social engineering on a micro level. They will be able to punish journalists, critics, and activists, anyone who they want. The plan lays out how this works. Each individual family selected to receive aid will get a package that contains the bare minimum calories needed to sustain them for 7 days. In exchange for this, the family will have to submit their biometric data to the IDF. This comes after 65 days of total siege on the millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. They haven't received a single delivery of food, water, medicine, nothing. The only thing that has entered Gaza for the past 65 days has been American bombs. And you know what the cherry on top is? Israel plans to only allow 10% of the amount of aid that was entering Gaza during the ceasefire, which, if we remember, the amount of supplies that was entering Gaza during the temporary ceasefire was far below what Gaza actually needs to survive. We have dozens of cases of Palestinian children starving to death, dying in their sleep, dying from malnutrition. This is a deliberate act of mass starvation designed to break and kill a population that has been being genocided for 18 months. Journalists and aid workers are being hunted. Medical workers and first responders are shot in the dead of night by the IDF. Farmland, food warehouses, community kitchens, water systems are being obliterated alongside the health system that Israel has bombed every single hospital in the Strip. This is not an accident. This is extermination by design. The time is now to act. It's called the final solution for a reason. This is the last stage. So activate yourself. Go to my bio. There's ways to do so. Share this video to get this message out there. Thank you, and free Palestine.
You better say free Palestine.
Kids are all right. Let me tell you. Let me turn that off. Slideshow back on. Good. Yeah. So that is a lot of what Whitney was talking about, where you're literally going to have to scan your retinal scan maybe, or a fingerprint scan in order to be able to get enough rations to survive starvation plus for another week. And if you said something on social media they didn't like, or you went on a road they didn't like, or you looked at the person who's taking your ID the way that, in the funny way, you may not get it for the week. This is what they want. I mean, it's disgraceful. Oh my goodness. No, mass starvation. Mass starvation, Applejack. Not the other word. This is a family show. Well, it's sort of a family show. Although I wouldn't really want to. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Fozzie. All right. So that is portion one. Again, biometric IDs. This is what Palantir and Google, which they've now started to participate in this too. This is Unit 8200 companies that then come over here and they're getting preferential treatment from the Trump administration. It's insane. All right. But that's not the only video I brought. You shared this with me the other night after I went to bed. I guess you found it. And it was a quote from Nora Barrows Friedman, and I immediately wanted to click and watch the video. David Miller, professor from the UK, famously went to Nasrallah's funeral, and he was detained at Heathrow for hours and harassed specifically because he attended the funeral in Lebanon. And he has been tremendously outspoken in anti-Zionism and in calling out exactly what Zionism is, and in calling out the rape culture that there is, and calling out the most extreme elements there, which is uncomfortable for a lot of people and put a big target on his back. Here he's quoting Nora Barrows Friedman from the Electronic Intifada, who's a also Indie Media Award honoree. Electronic Intifada, one of the best outlets there is in covering the struggle of Palestinians from their perspective, at Intifada on Twitter. And she recorded a podcast where she was a guest, or she was on a panel, and she talked about this. And here's a quote, and I wanted to go and see the longer context, but she says, quote, "I don't care about saving the Jewish soul at this point. I don't care about anything that has to do with preserving anything of my inherited genetic identity. It makes no difference to me about the future of Jewish society, because of what it's been reduced to right now is horrific. What Jewish society has been allowed to promulgate in Palestine is irredeemable. I just feel sick, and I have hatred, and I just want it to stop." And that resonates so well with me. So I brought Nora's video because I think that she's at a moment of, personal crisis, as am I, with all of this, with how we were raised and what we were taught, and how none of this tracks with who we were told our people were. But yet the mental gymnastics that have been done to excuse this stuff is beyond madness, because it's gaslighting on top of everything.
Even want the Zionists to take. I'm really stuck because I don't even want the Zionists to take up any space in my head at this point. Like I don't care. I don't care about saving the Jewish soul at this point. I don't care about anything that has to do with, preserving, anything of my inherited genetic identity. It makes no difference to me about, the future of Jewish society, because what it has been reduced to right now is horrific. What Jewish society has been allowed to promulgate in Palestine is irredeemable. And I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at. I'm just at a place of just like, I just feel sick. I feel sick, and I have hatred, and I just want it to stop. I'm really,
So there's only one thing that stood out to me that I wasn't crazy about there, which was kind of the conflation.
You could outlaw religion, and most of these sex crimes would disappear in a couple of generations.
Yes, but the conflation there of Judaism and what Israel is doing, and how they're bastardizing and twisting it to the point where she's even using the language in a way. And she's like one of the most, she's such an incredible fighter on behalf of the Palestinian people. And as an anti-Zionist Jew who's incredibly outspoken, I have the utmost respect for her, but we all get caught by it. That's part of the Hasbara. That's part of their goal and their game is to get you to co-opt and use their language in describing this and their terms and their framing. And yes, it's Jews that are doing this to the Palestinian people, but it's not all Jews. And she knows that more than anyone because she's been fighting as much as any Jew to make it stop. With her voice and with the platform that she has. And I also, you know, I what resonated with me there is the feeling of hatred and anger at being claiming that we're being represented by these people, that in any way, shape, or form, the connection that I have religiously with them could justify anything that they're doing, and that I would be okay with any of that. And they're just speaking for me, you know, the douchebags like the Shai Davidis and the Bill Ackmans. And this then becomes the perception of what Jewish people are to so many people. And it's just wrong. And I think that's part of what she's talking about. But of course, it's also using that religion as that justification, which we've never given our permission for, nor they've ever asked us, nor would they give a crap either way, because we've been screaming for 18 months, not in my name. And they continue to do it and spit in our faces and then say that we're not Jews and that we're self-hating Jews because we don't want Israel to murder Palestinian babies that are less than a year old. I'm with you, Nora. I love you, and thank you for all you're doing. Really, I hope a lot of people are out there.
She is in the corner,
showing their appreciation for being outspoken and speaking against our own community. There are not enough of us, and I also don't speak out as often as I could publicly. Part of that is because of family stuff, and it gets very complicated when you've got, you know, very close family members. Do you walk away from your whole family over this? I mean, it happened. It's been happening, and it's really tough. So fuck Israel for even putting us in that position at all. So,
yep.
Let's continue with fuck Israel by having the obvious question asked by Jason Hickel, who's a pretty smart cookie. Don't always agree with everything you post. This one was right on. Just curious to know what the reaction would be if someone bombed virtually every hospital, every school, and most civilian housing in Israel, and then openly planned to implement concentration camps and ethnic cleansing there. Because that's being done in Gaza, and all I hear is silence. Cowardly, nauseating silence. So this isn't necessarily a story. Now, Lisa here, who's a Kennedy researcher for JFK and RFK, she's unfriended nearly everyone in her life for their silence at this point. And some people have done that. And I deeply respect the people who have. But sometimes that's just about everybody in your life. And it's really hard on those people. And I have feeling for them. It is more complicated than that with people who this is not on their radar, and it's not necessarily something that affects their life on a daily basis, even though they see it affects my life on a daily basis. And that hurts.
Who are
sure.
these people? Who are these people?
Thank you. Yeah, that hurts. Sure. But everybody's got to do what they have to do to survive right now. And I just think that there are people that need to stick their head in the sands and believe what they need to believe, because otherwise it would bring their world crashing down together. And that doesn't necessarily serve anyone when they're holding it together to support 4, 5, 6 other people that have nothing to do with any of this. It's a very complicated situation. I don't know how to say any less about it. And then I got one more about the dam cracking and about just how much Israel has caused their own destruction. All right. This is a very powerful 2-minute speech from somebody I would never ordinarily bring on this show. It's a member of the House of Commons in Parliament. All right. Middle East Eye shared this. Speaking in front of the House of Commons, MP Mark Pritchard condemned Israel for its actions in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. And he says, I've supported Israel pretty much at all costs. And he says, I want to say that I got it wrong. And he's going to go a little bit more into this. He starts out by hedging, of course, right away. And we of course, don't like that. But we'll go here. Slideshow off. Okay. Let's make this go.
Deputy Speaker, of course, Israel is an important security, trade and democratic partner, but that
gotta kiss their ass a little.
Blank check. The fact is that 13,000 children have been killed, 25,000 have been injured, maimed, wounded, orphaned, some of them. And
many of them.
For many years, I've been in this House 20 years, I have supported Israel pretty much at all costs, quite frankly. But today, I want to say that I got it wrong. And I condemn Israel for what it is doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza and indeed in the West Bank. And I'd like to withdraw my support right now for the actions of Israel, what they are doing right now in Gaza. Of course, the hostages should be released. Of course, that Israel has a right to exist.
Of course, he throws
of course,
the
the Israeli people, the Jewish people should
He's
have the right to live in peace. But so do the Palestinian people. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the life of a Palestinian child is as precious as the life of a Jewish child.
Again,
and this
pause.
particular moment in time, we've had lots of statements over the last 18 months.
Palestinian child, Jewish child. What about no, it should have been Israeli child. If you're equating 1-to-1 Palestinian child to Jewish child, because guess what? There were Christian Palestinians, there were Muslim Palestinians. At one point, there were even Jewish Palestinians. Oh my God. Yes, there were. But they've murdered all of those, of course. But I just wanted to again note that he mentioned Palestinian child, Jewish child. Terrible.
Child is as precious as the life of a Jewish child. And this is this particular moment in time. We've had lots of statements over the last 18 months. This is not only this Parliament's not greatest hour. I'm really concerned that this is a moment in history when people look back where we've got it wrong as a country. Can the minister stand up to our friends and allies in the United States and make a strong stand for humanity, for us being on the right side of history, for having the moral courage to lead, not just to follow the United States, and to make a difference? That's why we're all elected here. Let's stand up for life. Let's stand up for all children, not just Jewish children.
And you heard some people there supporting him going, yay, yeah, yay. So that, again, you know, Jacqueline Hemmings, thank you for the tip. $5 over on the Ko-fi. She says, it sounds like this MP is more scared of losing his seat in the next general election or by-election than he is worried about the Palestinian people. Maybe.
That's the first half. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe. He's saying the words. Yep. He's saying the words.
Which has taken them how long to say the words?
Well, that was about to be my other point, which took you how long to get even there?
Right.
Like, how many babies had to die before you figured that out? Before you had to say something? Move Reef over there. Reef Center. He moved over. Okay. So, fuck Israel. I'm glad that there are at least some people starting to worry about this potentially being a political liability, because they certainly haven't worried about that for a while. And that's a good thing that they're doing this, you know. Again, it's a pander to Israel. You couldn't expect them to go Claire daily, but for somebody who has been an ardent Israel supporter his entire career in Parliament, I don't know how long he's been there. It's always a good thing when somebody that they think is on their team stands up and goes, "Nah, this ain't right anymore, man. We got to stop this. We can't listen to the U.S. We can't take it up the wazoo from Israel." All right, even though they all do, you know. Again, it was a little pandering, sure, but at the same time, I haven't seen too many speeches like that in Parliament. So I'm happy to see at least some of it happening somewhere in the Five Eyes countries. It's been happening elsewhere for sure. All right, so that is the end of the Fuck Israel segment. All right, we're good. All right, so we definitely won't get monetized for that. So thank you to everyone like Jackie Jack. She's already on that wall of fame. If you want to be on that wall of fame and you're not already, the ways to do that are down in the corner. Cash App, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, and it'll make the Who Are These People show up on the screen. PayPal.me/Indie News Network, INNnewsletter.com, and live at IndieMediaToday.com also. All right, so you can do it. All right. The other story that I brought tonight.
Don't let your dreams be memes. Do it.
Is that Shia LaBeouf? Is that his name again?
Shia LaBeouf. That is correct.
Nice. Dude, I think he got like
the side
more
of your car door window and you see Shia LaBeouf.
More popularity from doing those little gifs, I think, than anything he ever did. Which is really funny.
Don't be sleeping on the Holes movie, bro. You better not be sleeping on that Holes movie, dog.
The one with Sigourney Weaver?
The movie, son. Is that Sigourney Weaver?
There's a Holes movie. There's a movie with her as like a warden of a school or something.
Yep. And I forget the dude with the girl's name at the end. Is he called Leslie or something like that in the movie?
I don't remember.
But he's like the big, hard, like, you know, prison guard at the Holes place, you know?
Seb Applejack says we need to save these white South Africans, though, Indy. Yep. They definitely need saving.
South Africans.
All right. Jacqueline says that her MP, Zara Sultana, has been saying the right words for years. Sounds like this dummy's still in it for the money and nothing else. That's Golden Monarch saying that. Maybe. Well, you know, again, they have different kind of laws and rules about taking money for campaigns and stuff. But
John Voight, Sigourney Weaver.
I told
Henry
you.
Winkler.
Sigourney Weaver.
Great cast.
All right.
Yeah, I was thinking of John Voight.
So we talked about Rumyesa Öztürk. she is the Tufts University student. Actually, this article, I brought this article from WBUR, which is local Boston affiliate, that they did a really good job of describing and breaking down exactly what's going on with her case and bringing her perspective, bringing some other perspectives. So I figured I'd bring this one. And then, so she did get out. Thankfully, she's out right now, but it's on bail, and that's what they're going to talk about here. And I think a lot of people have not talked about that part. That's how do we miss that? That's the how do we miss that portion, by the way. Is it Angelina Jolie, John Voight's daughter? Yes, she is, as a matter of fact, Jacqueline. That's correct. Dule Hill is Sam the... Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I knew that. Dule Hill is Sam the Onion Man. Nice.
Yeah, dude.
Dule Hill, Charlie from The West Wing. So, as we know...
that.
Tufts...
Such a good movie.
Tufts University student Rumyesa Öztürk has been released from a Louisiana immigration processing facility, her attorneys say. No, not her attorneys say. There's the pictures. She got out. She's out. That's her. She's out. All right. Following a 6-week detention and legal fight that's become a flashpoint in the Trump administration's targeting of international students. Judge William Sessions ordered her release from the bench on Friday, saying he found serious claims of, quote, both due process and First Amendment violations in her arrest in Somerville, Massachusetts in March. No surprise there. We watched the arrest. There was a lot of unconstitutional stuff for sure. He said Ozturk's worsening asthma condition was a consideration of her release. I don't know what that was about. As well as... Unplugged. No, it's okay. It was just a Windows thing. As well as her need to continue her doctorate studies. Well, that's nice. He said the only evidence the government presented over the past 3 weeks in its fight to keep her in Louisiana was the op-ed she wrote criticizing Israel's war in Gaza. There is no evidence here, Judge Sessions said, other than the op-ed. Quote, Ozturk, clad in an orange prison jumpsuit and a beige hijab, appeared at her bail hearing via video from a small, bare, white-walled room at the South Louisiana ICE processing facility. She's scheduled to appear next in the Vermont court on May 22nd, when the judge will decide on the merits of her case that her constitutional rights were violated. This proceeding is separate from the government's deportation case against her. So she's still got 2 other cases happening here that she has to defend herself in court against. The Vermont ruling is a blow to the Trump administration's attempt to use the immigration enforcement to punish foreign-born, predominantly Muslim academics who've spoken up in defense of Palestinian human rights. At least 11 others in similar positions have been targeted. We've talked about several of them. One of them left the country, one of them lost and then left the country, one of them was deported. You know, Mahmoud Khalil famously is still in that facility in Louisiana. Judge Sessions declined to place a travel restriction on Ozturk despite the government's request, for no reason other than to fuck with her and to stop her from going to class. He said her academic career could require her to attend out-of-state events. He said, the judge, this is a woman totally committed to her academic career. This was a traumatic event. He found no evidence that she was involved in violence or criminal activity and said she therefore presents no risk of flight. Tufts University spokesman Mike Rodman, in a statement, said the school was pleased with the decision, as they should be, but they also should have been fighting much harder to get her out. Yeah, here, now it's really easy for him to take a victory lap. We look forward to welcoming her back to campus to resume her doctoral studies. Noting, and he added, that nothing in her co-authored op-ed in the Tufts Daily student newspaper violated either the university's gatherings, protests, and demonstrations policy or its declaration on freedom of expression. The school didn't care, but the Trump administration did, because Beitar did.
Beitar.
because Planet Beitar handed the Trump administration a list of pro-Palestinian and anti-genocide protesters that they wanted rounded up and deported. And the Trump administration delivered. It was Ozturk's first public appearance since her arrest on March 25th. They disappeared her for 6 weeks. That was a harrowing night in which she feared for her life as immigration agents took her to New Hampshire, Vermont, and then Louisiana. She was unaware that her student visa had been revoked days earlier. Like I said, Left Voice said that the student visas had been reinstated. No, the website where the visas were housed was reinstated, so the schools could only look up, once again, whether the visa had been redacted or not, or revoked. And in her case, they did revoke it. On Friday, amazingly enough, she was calm and composed as she answered numerous questions from lawyers and the judge about her medical condition, which she said has grown worse in the crowded quarters at the immigration jail where she's been held for 6 weeks. What a surprise. Quote, so you think the frequency and seriousness of these attacks has increased because of your exposure to such things as cleaning supplies, etc.? Yes, she said, I'm indicating that both the duration, intensity, and frequency has increased because of the constant triggers surrounding me and also stressful environment that I'm living in right now. The government offered no witnesses and asked no questions of Ozturk herself because they expect that authoritarianism, you're just going to railroad through whatever they want. Well, Judge Sessions said no. And then what they're going to do is they're going to attack the judge and call him an activist judge and say that he's legislating from the bench when he did exactly what the job of a judge is. In court Friday, Michael Drescher, acting U.S. Attorney for Vermont, reiterated the government's jurisdictional arguments. Ridiculous. We continue to assert that this court is neither the right forum nor is the right time is this the right time for hearing this claim? What is the right time? Because you haven't given her due process, locking her up for 6 weeks without a hearing. Multiple federal judges disagreed with that argument, including the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York, which ruled this week that immigration officials should return Ozturk to Vermont by next Wednesday. DHS suggested it planned to fight that ruling, but under Friday's order, Ozturk's free to live in Massachusetts and travel to Vermont for hearings, which DHS did not like. Asked about the judge's comments Friday, White House Press Secretary, 27-year-old Caroline Leavitt, who's married apparently to a 60-year-old dude, I learned, told reporters, quote, lower-level judges should not be dictating the foreign policy of the United States. Like I said, legislating from the bench. Reiterating prior statements that he's got a point. That it's a privilege, not a right, to come into this country on a visa, which she already was given and has done nothing but been a solid citizen. She just spoke out against a government that you don't like. Guess what? That's not against the law, assholes. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell, in a statement to WBUR, called Ozturk's release a welcome step toward justice, but she noted this is just the first victory in a long legal road ahead for someone wrongly targeted by the federal administration because of her political views. It's 100% political, and I don't think that they even deny that.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio has yet to produce any bit of any evidence or anything that she has done beyond writing this op-ed. And even Matt Taibbi stepped on it bad this week and tried to defend Marco Rubio and say the corporate media they weren't, man, he tried to say that corporate media needs to at least acknowledge that Rubio says he has worse evidence against her, even if he hasn't presented.
You done messed up, AA Ron.
Oh, dude, he done messed up real bad. And not just me, but a lot of journalists, independent journalists, tore him apart for it and said, you've been weirdly apologetic of all the Trump administration shit. And we get that you didn't like we get you didn't like what the Biden administration was up to because well, they persecuted him personally and sent the FBI after him, sent the IRS after him. But fuck, man, like doing mental gymnastics and siding with Rubio over this grad student who got rounded up in the middle of the night by ICE because that asshole revoked her fucking her visa unbeknownst to anyone in the middle of the night. Fuck that guy so bad, man. Marco Rubio's such a piece of shit. He's not going to be fired. He's doing exactly what he's told to do, and he was handled the job that what's his name that Mike Waltz had. That what was that? A national security advisor type of position. He's serving in multiple positions at the same time.
McMahon was firing Taibbi.
Oh, okay. Well,
that was the bit.
Good. McMahon can fire to fuck Taibbi too. All right, because that was bullshit. Like you claim to defend free speech, but you're gonna advocate for somebody who got arrested for 6 fucking weeks and put in jail because she wrote an op-ed. What would you be doing if they did that to you, Matt? Oh my God! Can you imagine the outcry? No, that was sheet. 100% sheet. And I called it out on Twitter.
Very much.
And I called it out on Substack notes. And I said, this is like a cancel my subscription, my paid subscription level bullshit right here. Like, I can support plenty of other independents that can use the money a lot more than that douchebag. Like, come on, man. Don't do that. Mental gymnastics to support the Trump administration because they're not Democrats. Really? Embarrassing. All right. Nearly 24 Tufts colleagues submitted affidavits of support on behalf of Rumyesa Öztürk in her legal fight. In interviews with WBUR, friends recalled how she fostered a tight-knit community at the school's Interfaith Center, helping organize weekly gatherings, volunteer shifts at homeless shelters, and fitness classes for stressed-out PhD students. Yeah, what a terrible person. Totally take that person off the map. Quote, Rumyesa is best described as a sweet, caring soul. But along with that, she's someone who had the courage to speak up. She might appear shy, but she also has a boldness about her. All right. I mean, I couldn't imagine if one of us got swept off the street and it's left up to everybody else to kind of bail us out and set the narrative and fight for us. Who would be there to do that? Thankfully, there are people who do that on behalf of...
You violated the law.
No, she didn't. But thank goodness there are people that are ready to stand up on behalf of this student.
How dare you, White Run Guard?
And others.
You stop that.
Members of the Massachusetts congressional delegations had visited Ozturk last month in Louisiana, photo op, and pressed for her release. In a statement Friday, Senators Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren... snake, and Representatives Ayanna Pressley and Jim McGovern, no friend to any of these prisoners, really, except on the surface. Let us be clear, Rumyesa should never have been abducted off the streets of Somerville, had her visa revoked, and been moved to the detention site of more than 1,500 miles away in all violation of her constitutional rights. Yeah. Guess why? Because... you guys decided to railroad...
You got no friends in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but they decided to railroad Kamala Harris as their nominee against this clown. They didn't put up any resistance. They haven't actually fought. They're waiting until after the barn doors open to close it. The horse is already gone. Oh, let's close that barn door and make sure that no horse will get out now. Fuck these people. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
This is a victory for Rumyesa. For justice and for our democracy. But remember, she's still got a bail hearing in 2 weeks. So again, this is her getting out. Thank goodness she's out. She didn't deserve to ever be there in the first place. All right. Now, this was a couple of days before, and it's related, but this was the decision to not change venue. All right. That... in addition, in yet another repudiation of the Trump administration's persecution of pro-Palestinian human rights activists, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals denied the government's motion to stay the district court's order that Rumyesa Öztürk be transferred to Vermont. The Second Circuit Second Circuit addressed at length the government's contention that Article 3 courts don't have jurisdiction to decide habeas petitions like Ms. Ozturk's, rejecting every single claim in support of this core argument made by the government. This decision is similar to that
who got rid of that habeas corpus? Who did that?
Thanks, Obama.
Who got rid of that?
Thanks, Obama.
The decision is similar to that of the district court in Mahmoud Khalil's case from last week. Right. The Second Circuit Court also noted that Marco Rubio again has failed to produce any evidence in support of Ozturk's detention, apart from the op-ed she co-authored, arguing that Tufts University, where she's a grad student, should divest from Israel. Her bail petition should be heard soon in the Vermont District Court, and she'll hopefully be released from custody at that time. This was, again, before they released her on Friday. And that, again, there's the official court decision documents there. But the fact that they weren't allowed to move venue, she can now live in Massachusetts, go to school there, and drive to Vermont, and that she's no longer detained and she's free to go and attend classes is a big win. And a big shot against the Trump administration. All right. So that is Rumyesa Öztürk. Fuck Trump. It's bullshit. They're getting rounded up for speaking out against a foreign country. Let that sink in. That's right. And that's going to be precursor to getting rounded up for speaking out against our country. All right. Who was it that first noticed that Taibbi made a habit to not talk at great length about Gaza? I don't know. A lot of people have been pointing that out for a long time.
I know a couple of, correct, for quite a bit.
All right.
You know?
Yep. Quite a few. Again, I don't think that he was Elon's stenographer, quote unquote. I don't believe that a lot of what he reported on was quote unquote handpicked or whatever. It was handpicked by Twitter's lawyers, but he found whatever he could find in those documents and presented what he found. What he was looking for was the Democrats colluding with Twitter management, which he found a lot of. The FBI, CIA, all that stuff was real.
He could have looked at other stuff. I'm sure there was a few lanes he could have went down, but they might not have gave it to him, even if he fucking asked. So
Marco, oh not mio. Yeah, that's right.
That's the point.
Right. It's so frustrating that, again, and remember, it's a recurring theme that so far, I think just about everything that we've talked about tonight, Israel has had some influence on the narrative, on the discussion. It's always somehow part of the conversation. I'd like it to not be at some point. I'd like it to not be at some point. Maybe sometime we'll get that. You know, we'll have to end Citizens United likely because they're buying our Congress. They're buying our politicians left, right, and sideways to make sure that they're still in the narrative and part of the narrative. And then they've got the NGOs and the think tanks where they dump a bunch of money. And then they've got the tech companies and the Unit 8200 and the spyware that they're the Pegasus type of spyware that they're installing on devices. So they don't even need to be in the room. We really need to take a hard look at quote unquote our closest ally and look at divesting substantially and breaking from these murderous fucking thugs. Because if they're willing to drop bombs on babies, what do you think they're going to do to us? Do you think that...
My disappointment is immeasurable. And my day is ruined.
Like the naivete of thinking that it's the same thing that the Democrats had in funding Azov Nazis. When you start giving money to these people, you're now in bed with them, and the minute that it stops, they turn on you as if you were the enemy the entire time. It's every time. So good luck with that. But you've made us all less safe as a result. Thanks for that. We're certainly not going to be monetized for talking about Rumyesa Öztürk. So if you're able to, and it means, please, Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, INNnewsletter.com, or over at indiemediatoday.com as well. Both of the Substacks coming to a Substack near you. I do have a lightning round, and I had a few things I wanted to share with you on there, and then we can get to boats. So thank you to everyone who's here and hanging out. Good to see you all on a Monday night. We will be back for our usual Sunday night show this Sunday night. And then we're going to do boats next as well. So lightning round. Okay. This made me sad.
It's me, Elmo.
Elmo got fired this week, and
Unfortunately,
somebody
Elmo was recently laid off because of the federal budget cut. Elmo worked in Sesame Street for 35 years.
And he still sounds like that.
Elmo loved his time on Sesame Street. Elmo's going to miss his friend Big Bird and Cookie Monster and Ernie and Bert and Abby and Grover and Count and so many more. I don't think Elmo would use as many words, first of all.
They made Elmo's day so much better. Somebody wrote this LinkedIn post on Elmo's behalf. Elmo is looking for his next opportunity. Elmo's good at so many things, like hugs. Elmo loves giving hugs. Elmo can recognize the letter E for eviction, spell his name, feel empathy, sing Elmo's song.
Jesus Christ.
And ask how you are doing. I put in the eviction part. E for unemployment. E for employment, too. Elmo is open to full-time or freelance roles. If you hear of any opportunities or want a hug, let's connect. And if you want to help save Elmo and his friends, please urge your local congressperson to save public media. While Elmo is sad, Elmo is excited for what's next. And one more thing. Elmo loves you. I thought that was sad as fuck and funny at the same time. Again, fuck Trump for that, because that would not have happened under a Democratic administration. They would not have canceled Sesame Street. Yeah. So that's number one of the lightning round. Go follow Elmo from Sesame Street on LinkedIn if you're not already. I think he could use some friends. And it's definitely better than some of the douchebags that are over there. Okay. Lightning round number 2. Scott Smith. I don't know if you remember, but this is the guy who, from Purdue University, he's the water expert who went to East Palestine, Ohio. He's been to Conyers, Georgia also. So he talked about that this was the 6th round of testing for residents in and around the Biolab Conyers, Georgia fire, which again we covered last year, where the person in the town walked out of a hearing saying everyone needs to get tested and dropped dead. This includes crop testing, more surface testing, more soil testing, more ash and soot testing, and metals testing in and around ground zero for dioxins, SVOCs and PAHs, metals, and other chemicals. This is the same testing that should be done for the Vistra Moss Landing battery fire that has been affecting our friend Keith McHenry, who's been getting headaches and nosebleeds and stuff out in California. That was a battery fire for Tesla. Yeah, amazing. I'll be on the ground in Moss Landing to begin preliminary testing on May 17th for a few days. I'll tell Keith about that. You can't find what you don't look for, right? And no thanks to George Whittington in Conyers, Georgia, for providing important crop control samples and more for the community. And there are the samples of the soil and the water. And some of those water samples are disgusting, man. Ugh, gross. But Scott Smith doing the work, the guy in the blue shirt, all right, who's always about, we can't measure what we don't test. Got to test it. All right. So support Scott Smith. Go follow him. You talked about sludge before. You mentioned them in an article that we had covered, or referenced an article we covered a while back. they did this piece called "Who's Profiting from ICE?" Right, and immediately my knee-jerk reaction was to initially say, you know, the private prison companies, Core Civic and Geo Group, right? But they specifically address that right in the first paragraph, that critics often focus on private prison companies, right? But hundreds of other businesses quietly profit from ICE's ramped up activities. Private charter airlines. Yeah, private charter airlines and transport companies earn millions from handling detainee transfers, and tech firms providing surveillance tools like face scanning and ankle monitors to take a piece of ICE's more than $9 billion annual budget. Even food service companies, tent manufacturers, healthcare contractors, telecom services, and uniform suppliers cash in, like Cintas. The people behind this sprawling web of contracting businesses, from small vendors to large corporations, are profiting from a system where financial incentives often overshadow humane treatment of immigrants. Yeah. So read this article over at Sludge. I'll put the link in the description. Support independent media. Donald Shaw and David Moore writing over at Sludge. I also wanted to make some reference to this stupid narrative that's been put out by the Trump administration, thanks to the fact that CCOT has been such a wild success in their minds, and shipping people off to CCOT has scared the shit out of people and has been an effective way to get rid of people cheaper than it would have been to house them in the United States. They're looking to expand this authoritarian police state, prison state. Trump came out with a statement, and I'm looking for it somewhere, about opening Alcatraz, okay? He wants to reopen Alcatraz.
I forgot this dumb shit.
All right. So this person, oh, here it is. Rebuild and open Alcatraz, dumbass. For too long, America has been plagued. Yourself? Yeah. Thank you, Bubbles. Plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders. The dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering, with capital letters. God, he's such a fucking boomer. Sorry, Oz. All right. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we didn't hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals. What the fuck is Florence AdMax, you asshole? Florence ADX prison. Leavenworth. And keep them far away from anyone they can harm.
Don't we have like Oscar award-winning movies like heroizing members of Alcatraz who escaped
from Alcatraz?
Don't we have a movie like that?
We're gonna get to that.
I do believe that's it.
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
All right. So dumbass says, I am directing the Bureau of Prisons together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, because he needs to put tons of resources behind something that's never going to happen, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz, house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Again, what is ADX Florence AdMax, sir? In Colorado. We will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. God, what a fucking douchebag piece of shit. So glad you assholes in this country decided to elect this dickhead. Thanks for that.
Right,
all right.
Right away.
So this person, Perspectives, the podcast, Shane Burkett, had to point out the obvious. Alcatraz is a National Historic Landmark that closed in 1963 because it was already falling apart and too expensive to operate. It now belongs to the National Park Service, not the DOJ, not the Bureau of Prisons. It's a museum, not a dungeon. But hey, let's entertain the fantasy. All right, rebuilding costs $750 million to $1.2 billion. The buildings are corroded, unstable, and unsafe. Rebuilding for seismic safety alone in earthquake-prone San Francisco is hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's before you install modern prison technology. Utilities are non-existent. Add another $250 million to $400 million there. There's no plumbing, no fresh water supply, no sewage treatment, no electrical grid. No problem. Every drop of water and every watt of power would need to be ferried in or built from scratch. Transportation and logistics. There's no bridge. Every inmate, staff member, and food shipment would then have to travel by boat or helicopter daily. I don't see a problem there. You'll also need a Coast Guard presence 24/7 to prevent escape and ensure safety. That's not going to cost us anything. All right. Now you move back. I got to move you back now. Damn it. Operational costs, $100 million per year. Staffing an isolated island, which means hazard pay, housing stipends, massive turnover, plus modern security infrastructure like surveillance AI, riot control, and medical services. And then you have the legal hurdles where you can't just reopen Alcatraz. It requires literally congressional approval, which you probably get, environmental studies, which you won't get, public comment periods, they'll railroad through that, and lawsuits from preservationists and human rights groups, which will keep it tied up in the courts for a decade and well outlasting Trump's term. Good luck getting that through. And then you've got symbolism versus reality. Turning a tourist attraction into a dystopian monument doesn't make us safer. We don't need a fortress island. We need criminal justice reform, investment in mental health, and community safety initiatives. The total cost is looking like $1.5 billion to $2.5 billion. That's not law and order.
Christ.
That's performative authoritarianism with $1 billion price tag. No, a $2 billion price tag, because you know that the estimates are not. Go ahead.
I know a cheaper option. You know, like there's a island we already have control over. You could just hide all the sex criminals there you want. You know, I think they already were doing that. I think it's Epstein Island. I think we could use that one.
Do we own that? I believe that was not a U.S.
build a prison on that
island, I believe, but I could be wrong. Let's talk about solutions, not stunts.
I mean, Israel can probably let us borrow it.
Now, there was a more detailed... Now, Hair on Fire, if you didn't read that thread, this guy over at World Socialist website wrote an article about it and further breaks down for a lot of reasons why this should not and will not happen. All right. Though it was only built to house a maximum of 336 prisoners, it averaged only 260 to 275 per year. All right. Well, we know the Trump administration loves to overstuff prisons, so there'd be 1,500 people in there for sure. All right. There you've got the reference to Escape from Alcatraz and Al Capone being housed there. All right. But the thing is if they really wanted to build an island prison, they don't need to build it there. They got plenty of islands they could build it on where there's already infrastructure, bridges, electricity, and everything else. And they could build a state-of-the-art facility from the ground up. This symbolic nonsense about Alcatraz because he saw it in a movie. He's such a fucking moron. I swear he's such a moron. Like, this is moronic shit. This is appealing to chuds. Thus ends the lightning round. Fuck Trump. Fuck the Democrats that would probably allow this to go through because they love the prison state and they love placating Trump wherever they possibly can. And they love giving money to cops and they love locking up protesters and people they perceive to be criminals. So I'm sure they'd be down with a lot of this shit. But reopening Alcatraz is ridiculous and silly.
Who are these people?
Thank you, whoever that was. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Margaret, hey, what's going on? And Villa she's great. All right. Now we're up to, let's hook up our friends because they need our help. Okay, we've got Shanda. She has been fighting small cell lung cancer. She's raised over $1,000 since she turned back on her GoFundMe. Really appreciate that. All right, and she needs our help paying bills. Same thing with Andrew and his daughter, Anna Marie. All right, fighting brain tumors. They've had to raise the goal again to 6,500. They're getting close to the 6,000 that we were at last week. Again, thank you to everybody. Andrew really needs it, and he's messaged me how thankful he is that we've shouted this out, that Misty has given us a lot of light as well and shared this GoFundMe. If you can share the GoFundMe, if you can share, it's what is it? Andrew Zigman 1, I think is his Twitter handle. I'll put the link in the chat as well if you can share the GoFundMe. Really, she's started undergoing treatments. She's lost her sight, and they've now started to like teach her Braille and teach her to walk with a cane. They need a lot of help, and they had to move to Cincinnati for the treatments. I also wanted to make reference to the one-on-one that I did with Gen X Girl 1994. We aired that Saturday night over on the Rumble and over on everywhere, including over at INNnewsletter.com. That was great. 2 hours, almost 2 hours worth. And she blows the cover off of what the ADL is doing. They made up a fake research organization called Builders for Tomorrow that doesn't exist except in these ADL reports that Congress happens to be citing as the reason and basis for creating anti-Semitism legislation. It's a fake organization. It's a fake research. It doesn't exist. They made it up. But they're providing some kind of third-party validation to the report in producing it with the ADL. No, it was just the ADL, but no one would take it on its face if it wasn't. So, by all means, check out my one-on-one with Gen X Girl. You can watch it on all our channels. And then finally, I wanted to make reference to Indie News Now. Like I said, we're live over there. You can go to the Watch Live page and watch us live whenever INN is live and chat through the Discord. But also, I built a news site that has articles and Rumble videos for you to watch and check out. And this rotates and works 24/7. So you've got articles from Consortium News and Labor Union News and The Dissident. And this is Jason Burmis did a clip about Matt Gaetz's insane interview about Israel. All right, a good one, where he pulled the cover off and he literally said you can't have a successful political career in this country if you don't support Israel. Bunch of things to check out there. So that's IndieNewsNow.com. We're going to go over to boats, smashing in other boats in a minute. But before we do, one last time, if you're able to, really appreciate the support from Margaret and from Jacqueline and from Sean tonight. The ways to do that, again, our Cash App, $ Indie News Network. Let me check the Cash App before we get out of here. ko-fi.com/ Thank you. /Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. And then we've got the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com, as well as over at IndieMediaToday.com, where we are live right now. No new Cash Apps tonight, but that's okay. I really appreciate everybody's generosity in helping us fund this thing, keep the lights on, and pay for a restream and the Canva so we can keep making nice thumbnails and backgrounds. And you're going to notice a nice new background for the beginning and intro and ending of boats tonight. I do not forget Substack, Kelly Albertine. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Really, we love Substack. And so glad that we can finally stream over there. But come back to, we're going to go over to INNnewsletter.com for boat smashing and other boats on Substack. We're going to switch over to INN 8, the Ocho channel over on YouTube and on Rumble. So go check us out over there. And then we'll be live over at our Bitchute, Kick, Odysee, Twitch, and Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, and IndieNewsNow.com as well. So we'll be live at all those places starting in a few minutes. Just going to switch things over And we'll be back real soon. But in the meantime, thank you so much. I love you all. And support sponsor-free independent media, because we need it more than ever.
Independent media.
Support independent media. We need it more than ever.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream. Operator errors are so tough for audio.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen.
What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear